Hello, my name is Lisa Feldstein. I'm a health and fertility lawyer in Ontario, Canada, and in this video I want to talk about what do I want egg donors to know before our meeting. So the first thing that we always talk about in our meetings, of course, is that egg donation in Canada is perfectly legal. It's buying eggs that is against the law, at least within Canada. So that sets the groundwork, and every contract will have some language along the lines of the eggs are being donated, that the donor can't be paid, whatever reimbursements are going to be permitted are in there, and pretty much every donor agreement will say things like the donor is not a parent, the intended parents are the parent, their names, or his or her, if it's a single intended parent, that person's name will go on the birth certificate. So to a certain extent, they do all look the same. But what I really want donors to think about is what are the parts where they will look different. So in advance of a meeting with an egg donor, I really want donors to read their contracts in advance so they can take a look for three things. One, is there anything in this contract that is actually factually incorrect? If there's something that's not true, we need to catch it. Two, is there anything that they have questions about? Because donors should not be signing contracts that they don't understand. So the meeting with a lawyer is an opportunity to ask those questions. And three, is there anything they want changed? These contracts are not set in stone. The first draft is rarely the last draft. Whether I am advising a donor or acting for intended parents, over 99% of egg donor files have changes after the first draft, because the independent legal advice, that is that opportunity for the donor to put her perspective into this agreement, whether that's adding more information or changing something, whatever it is, that is the norm. And I want donors to do that work of reading the contract and for themselves identifying what they might want changed, because I can flag things and ask the question, but I don't know the donor as well as, of course, she knows herself. So it's really important that donors actually read the contract, every word of it, even though some of it gets a little dry, read every word and then come to that meeting prepared with any questions or proposed changes. I also like when donors have given thought to confidentiality. Some donations are completely anonymous, and that's fine, but if there's a contract, it might be they're anonymous now with a door open for contact in the future. So some contracts might say things like when the child is 18, if he or she wants to know the donor is open to that. So the donor needs to think about that even when it's an anonymous contract. When it's an open contract, I still find donors rarely give thought to this, and it's so important. So I want donors to think about, or talk with the intended parents if they know who they are. Talk about whether this child will get to know they are donor conceived, and if so, will they know who the donor is? Who will tell them? When will the child get to know? Generally, it's when the intended parents feel the child is of an age of maturity, when it feels appropriate in their judgment, but that doesn't have to be the case. And then who else gets to know? I find so often donors are thinking about the child to be, they aren't thinking about their own children, whether they have any now or might in the future. Well, those children will be genetically related. Do those children get to know that they have this genetic relationship to another child, whether that's a cousin or a child of a stranger? Do they get to know? And does the donor's partner get to know? And again, the donor might be single now, but maybe is in a relationship in the future where it feels pretty relevant to say to a future husband, for example, by the way, years ago I donated my eggs and that child is genetically related to me. Thought you should know. That so often is not considered by donors, and it amazes me, and it's very important in a lot of relationships to be able to share that and not be breaching the contract. So thinking about who gets to know what and when is really important. So I really like when donors think about that in advance of the meeting. Otherwise, I do ask the questions and we talk about it and we have back and forth, but often that back and forth through the lawyers delays the process. Whereas if a donor has an open and honest conversation with intended parents before the meeting, that can really cut down on the process and again, make sure everybody is on the same page. Because this is one area where when it comes to confidentiality, you can't put a secret back in the bag. Once if somebody shares something they shouldn't have, it's hard to undo that. So it's really important everyone has the same understanding to make sure that there is a plan and the plan can be followed, and there's a plan for changing the plan if someone feels the need to build in that kind of flexibility. So that is all for this video. I hope you learned something new, and if you're a donor, I hope some of this information is useful in you preparing for your meeting with your lawyer or with me for independent legal advice. So that's it, and I will see you in the next video.